Albert, always good to talk with you, buddy. A lot to get into. I guess I want to start with the McDaniels thing. I don't know if you heard what I was saying, but I feel like the combination of whatever happened with the Colts last year and Tebow, I feel like those would be my first two questions if I was interviewing him, and I feel like that might be tough for him to overcome.
Well, you know, I think I'd take you back further than that, back to a former teammate of yours. And I think a lot of people that were in New England in 2008 for the Matt Castle year really got this idea, like, we can do this with whatever quarterback. Like, we can do this. It doesn't matter who you give us. Just give me an athlete who can think through and who can learn, and I'll be able to make something with him, you know? And so I think whoever the guys that were there on the offensive side of the ball in 2000, and I think Bill O'Brien was affected by this too. You could see with the way that they fumbled through quarterbacks in Houston the first few years, that they could almost make do with anything at quarterback. And I think Josh has learned his lesson on that. And so, you know, I think he's a very different coach than he was in Denver. I think the problem that he has from a perception standpoint is that, you know, he left Denver, goes to St. Louis for a year. That doesn't work out. They all get fired. And then he goes back to New England, and he's with the greatest quarterback of all time again. But I can tell you the way the teams look at him and the way that the teams that are considering him look at him is as somebody who was way ahead when it comes to all the offensive innovation that we've seen over the course of the last, you know, like 3-4 years, and all the college concepts making their way to the NFL and all of that. Like, Josh McDaniels is really seen as somebody who was on the front end of that. And I could certainly see where a team like Green Bay would be very, very interested in him based on his experience with Tom Brady.
Do you think, Albert, that he's the most highly sought-after candidate? And if he's not, is there a guy that you hear or believe is hotter than anybody else?
Well, first of all, no, I don't think so. I don't think Josh is a fit for everybody. And one of the reasons why I think that Green Bay might wind up being the right fit, and I think Green Bay is the one that very seriously, you know, you look at like a week from now could be making that hire. One, there's, you know, some pre-existing background with him and the general manager in that he was the front runner for the 49ers job 3 years ago or 2 years ago, and simultaneously Brian Gutekunst, the guy who's Packers general manager now, was the front runner for the 49ers GM job. So they did work on each other. The second piece of this is that the Packers need to find someone who can coach Aaron Rodgers. I know that sounds like a simple thing, but how many people on the planet can possibly know what it's like to have to find a way to give Aaron Rodgers new information to challenge him on a day-to-day basis, and how difficult that is? Well, you know, Josh McDaniels, because he's coached Tom Brady, is one of the few people who has experience doing that sort of thing with that level of quarterback.
Terrific point about McDaniels and Aaron Rodgers. And with how close Rodgers and Brady are, I do think that there would be, you know, that Rodgers would, you know, not that he's the one making the decision, but he definitely would sign off on it and be happy about it, I would imagine.
Yeah, and, you know, again, it's one of these things where it's a challenge. Again, it's a challenge to coach those guys. I think that anybody who coached Peyton Manning would tell you the same thing, that there's an anxiety that comes along with coaching guys at that level, you know. On a day-to-day basis, they're so prepared, and they've got so much background, and they've got so much experience, and, you know, they know the game so well that it's very, very difficult to find something for a coach on a day-to-day basis to go in that environment and know, like, this guy's going to think I'm full of it unless I'm outworking him. And, you know, that's how Adam Gase made his name with Peyton Manning, was that, you know, he would be willing to, field texts from Peyton at 1 a.m. if Peyton had something he needed answered, you know. And so, you know, that piece of it I think is really, really important. And I think Tom Brady would communicate that to Aaron Rodgers, which would be huge for Josh going in there and knowing that that's been communicated to Aaron Rodgers. Aaron's not the easiest guy to coach. Aaron has his own thoughts on the way that things should be. I think that the guys on Mike McCarthy's staff would tell you that, you know, Aaron's propensity for changing plays and playing off schedule and all that different stuff frustrated them at points and made it more difficult for McCarthy and his assistants as play callers. But I would tell you the flip side of that is that, you know, with all the problems that he's had the last few years, the frustrations that he's had with McCarthy's offense, I would think that he'd have to be open-minded to someone with Josh McDaniels' resume coming in and trying to put the offense on a different level than it's been.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.